name is Ashley Monroe, and I'm 30 years old. A year ago, I thought my life was exactly where it was supposed to be: a stable career, a loving fiancé, and a wedding only a month away. But the night Kyle told me he felt trapped, everything I thought I knew about love, commitment, and forever began to crumble. From the outside, we looked perfect. 8 years together, from broke college students sharing instant noodles in a tiny apartment to partners browsing marble samples for the dream kitchen we were saving for. Everyone said we were the couple that made it, the kind who turned youthful chaos into something lasting. Our families adored each other. My mom cried happy tears when Kyle proposed. His mother called me the daughter she never had. The venue was booked, the catering paid, the honeymoon planned. It was supposed to be the happiest chapter of our lives. But if you looked closely and I didn't knock soon enough, there were cracks. Little things that didn't make sense. Kyle started working late more often, claiming urgent deadlines. Texts that used to be filled with affection turned into short, polite responses. And when I'd talk about wedding details, his smile seemed more like tolerance than excitement. At first, I blamed stress. Weddings make people tense, right? But deep down, there was a heaviness in his silence I couldn't name. One evening, we were having dinner at our favorite restaurant, the one where we'd celebrated promotions, anniversaries, and once even our engagement. The waiter brought our usual wine, but Kyle barely looked up from his phone. I tried to keep things light. So, your mom said she wants to dance at the wedding. Should we add her favorite song to the playlist? He didn't even smile, just sighed and said quietly, "Ashley, I feel trapped." The words didn't make sense at first. They just floated there heavy and shapeless. Trapped. I repeated my laugh, trembling. If you mean the planning stress, I totally get it. You can fire me as project manager anytime. He didn't laugh. His eyes stayed distant. It's not about the wedding. It's about us. Something inside me went still. He took a slow breath, staring at the table. You're amazing. You've always been amazing. But I can't shake this feeling like I'm settling. Settling. That word sliced through me like glass. My pulse roared in my ears, but my voice came out calm, practiced. What exactly are you settling for? He twisted the condensation ring on his glass, avoiding my gaze. I don't know. Maybe comfort? Maybe safety? Maybe I need to know what else is out there before I say forever. Every part of me screamed to argue, to fight, to remind him of everything we'd built. But I didn't. I just sat there realizing I was engaged to a man already halfway out the door. When we got home that night, he showered and went straight to bed without touching me. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, feeling the quiet stretch between us like an open wound. He'd said he felt trapped, but in that moment, I was the one imprisoned by a love that no longer wanted to stay. And still I told myself it was just fear that he'd come around once the big day got closer. I didn't know it yet, but that dinner was the beginning of the end. The next morning, his good morning text was replaced with a cold, generic, running late. See you tonight. I should have seen it for what it was, not a delay, but a slow goodbye. He said he felt trapped, I whisper now, replaying that night in my head. And I still believed love could fix everything. I was wrong. A week later, Kyle asked if we could meet to talk. No details, no warmth, just that flat, polite tone people use when they've already decided what comes next. We met at a small cafe downtown, the same one where he'd once surprised me with a promise ring. Back then, he'd said, "This is just the beginning of forever." Funny how forever can shrink into a single sentence. I arrived early out of habit. He arrived 15 minutes late out of new priorities. He looked perfect, freshly shaven, crisp white shirt, the faint scent of cedar cologne he always wore when he wanted to feel in control. He smiled when he saw me, but it wasn't the smile that used to reach his eyes. "Hey," he said softly, like he was greeting a stranger. "Hey," I echoed, trying not to show my hands shaking around the coffee cup. He sighed as if rehearsing his next line. "Ashley, I've been doing a lot of thinking." That was the sentence, the one that always comes before your world breaks. "I don't think I can go through with the wedding," he said, steady voice, steady hands, not a hint of emotion. For a second, I thought I'd misheard him. Then I saw it, that eerie calm in his eyes. He'd already detached himself months before this conversation. Why, I asked, not angry, just numb. He stirred his coffee slowly like buying time. Because it's not fair to either of us. I need to figure out who I am before I make promises I might regret later. I swallowed hard. "So you're calling it off?" He nodded. "I am. I still love you, Ashley. But love isn't everything." It was almost poetic how cruel that sounded. For years, I'd been his anchor, his partner, his best friend. Now I was just a chapter he was ready to close. I asked quietly, "Is there someone else?" His eyes flickered just for a second before he said, "No, this isn't about anyone else. I just need space to find myself." A lie, and we both knew it. I nodded, keeping my voice steady, even as my heart cracked. "Then I won't stand in your way." He blinked, surprised by my calmness. "That's it. You're okay with this." "I'm not okay," I said, "but I'm not going to beg you to stay." He exhaled, relieved almost, like I'd just freed him from guilt. "I didn't want this to get ugly," he said quietly. "You don't have to worry about that," I replied. "You already made it ugly enough." For the first time, his expression faltered. His mouth twitched like he might cry, but pride won. "I'm sorry if you're hurt," he murmured. "You're not sorry," I said, standing. "You're relieved. Enjoy your freedom." I walked out without looking back, but I could feel his eyes on me the whole way to the door, not out of regret, but disbelief that I didn't fall apart right there. That night, I sat on the floor of our apartment surrounded by wedding samples, the ivory invitation cards, the silk swatches, the stupid mason jar, centerpiece prototypes. Every piece of that life looked suddenly foreign. Then my phone buzzed. A message from Maya, one of our mutual friends. "Ashley, I don't know how to tell you this, but Kyle's been close with someone at work. A woman named Lila. They've been texting for months." My stomach turned cold. Lila. The one he said was like a sister. The one he swore I had nothing to worry about. I stared at the message, half expecting anger to rush in. But it didn't. Just silence. Because somewhere deep down, I already knew. I stood up, took off the engagement ring, and placed it on the counter next to his half-empty coffee mug. He wanted freedom, fine. He could be free. I, on the other hand, was done being someone's safety net. He said he wanted to find himself, I whispered into the quiet room. I didn't realize that meant losing me. The next morning, I woke up to sunlight spilling through the curtains, but the bed beside me was empty. Kyle had already packed his things. No note, no goodbye, just silence and the faint scent of his cologne fading into the air. That was when it hit me. There wasn't going to be a dramatic apology, no late-night knock at the door, no cinematic, "I made a mistake." He was gone, and I was supposed to learn how to exist without him. For the first few days, I went through motions like a ghost. Calling the venue, the photographer, the florist, one cancellation after another. The wedding planner's voice softened more each time. "I'm so sorry, Miss Monroe." "Me too," I wanted to say, but my voice always caught somewhere in my throat. When the ring jeweler asked why I wanted to sell it back, I said, "Because it doesn't mean anything anymore." He went quiet for a long second before replying, "I understand." No, I thought, you don't. That night, I stared at the honeymoon confirmation email in my inbox, the one for Thailand. 2 tickets, non-refundable. The thought of wasting them felt heavier than the heartbreak itself. So I did something even I didn't expect. I packed 1 suitcase, changed the booking to a single traveler, and boarded that flight alone. The plane ride was quiet, the kind that makes you hear your own thoughts too clearly. Every couple around me was laughing, taking photos, clinking champagne glasses. I looked out the window, whispering to no one. This was supposed to be ours. When I landed in Phuket, the heat hit me like a wave, and for the first time in months, I wasn't cold. The days bled together in colors I hadn't noticed before. Blue water, gold sunsets, the red of street lanterns swaying in the night breeze. I tried things I'd never done: scuba diving, hiking to viewpoints, eating spicy food until I cried and laughed at once. At first, I did it out of defiance, then out of peace. Each night, I'd sit alone on the beach, the waves brushing against my feet, and I'd think about everything Kyle said. That he felt trapped, that he needed to know what else was out there. And then I'd look at the endless ocean, realizing he wasn't trapped by me. He was trapped by his own restlessness, the kind that no amount of freedom could ever fix. One evening, an older woman sat beside me. She was a widow, traveling alone, sketching the sunset. "You're by yourself?" she asked gently. "Yes," I said. "My fiancé left me." She smiled faintly. "Then you're exactly where you need to be." I didn't understand what she meant until later that night when I fell asleep without crying. By the end of the trip, I wasn't healing. That word felt too performative. I was just existing again, without needing to be someone's reason, someone's home, someone's second choice. The day I flew back, I looked out the airplane window and whispered, "You said I'd never survive without you. But look, I'm breathing just fine." When the wheels touched the ground, I didn't expect anything waiting for me. But I had no idea peace wasn't what was waiting. It was chaos. And this time it wouldn't be mine. The first thing I did after unpacking was turn my phone back on. I wasn't prepared for what I saw: dozens of unread messages flooding my screen. Not from Kyle, from everyone around him. At first, it was polite curiosity. Hey, Ashley, how are you holding up? Then the tone shifted. He's been asking about you. He's not doing great. You probably don't care, but he's different. Different. That word made me laugh out loud. When he left, he said he needed to find himself. Now that he had, apparently, he didn't like what he found. I ignored the messages and tried to focus on work. But a few nights later, one text caught my eye. It was from Maya, the same friend who had told me about Lila. You probably don't care, but Kyle's been calling your mom. Says he's sorry, that he's been having panic attacks. Lila dumped him. He's not handling it well. My fingers hovered over the screen, not to reply, just to breathe. The irony was cruel and perfect. He'd left me because he couldn't settle. Now the woman he'd risked everything for decided he wasn't enough. Curiosity won over pride. I searched Lila's social media. Her page was public, all golden hour selfies and beach photos captioned with half-philosophical quotes. But something was missing, Kyle. Every picture of him was gone, every tag deleted, as if he'd never existed in her world. Then I found his page. Private. No profile photo, but his mutual friends told me what I needed to know. He'd stopped posting, stopped showing up to group dinners, stopped being the man who once thought the world revolved around him. For a second, I almost pitied him. Almost. But pity is a dangerous emotion. It disguises itself as empathy. That night, I opened my journal for the first time since Thailand. Instead of writing about him, I wrote about me. How I felt waking up without waiting for his good morning text. How silence no longer scared me. How freedom, the very thing he'd chased, had become my peace. The next morning, I found a message waiting from an unknown number. Kyle. Hey, I heard you went on the trip. I'm glad you did. I've been thinking about you. Can we talk? I stared at it for a long time. Not because I didn't know what to say, but because I didn't owe him an answer. So I didn't reply. I deleted the message and the number that came with it. Later that evening, my mom called. She hesitated before speaking, her tone careful. He called here today, Ashley. Who I asked, pretending not to know. Kyle. He said he made a mistake. That he thought he wanted freedom, but he just ended up alone. I didn't say anything. There was nothing left to say. My mom sighed. He sounded broken. I closed my eyes. Mom, some people only realize what they had after they destroy it. But that doesn't mean they deserve it back. For the first time, she didn't argue. Just whispered, I'm proud of you. That night, I scrolled through my photos from Thailand, not to relive the pain, but to remember who I'd become. The girl who took her honeymoon alone and came back whole. He'd wanted to explore what was out there. Now all he had was emptiness. He thought freedom would feel like flying, I wrote in my journal. Turns out it felt like falling. 2 months passed before I saw him again. It was a Thursday evening, the kind that smells like rain before it falls. I had just left work, umbrella in one hand, grocery bag in the other, when I noticed a car parked across the street, headlights off, engine silent. At first, I ignored it, but as I unlocked my apartment gate, the driver's door opened, and there he was. Kyle. He looked nothing like the man who had walked away from me months ago. His hair was longer, his face drawn dark circles bruising the skin beneath his eyes. Even his clothes looked tired. He stood there in the drizzle, staring like he was still convincing himself it was really me. Ashley, he said softly, can we talk? The rain tapped between us, steady and cold. I wanted to say no. I wanted to walk away. But some cruel part of me, the one that needed closure, nodded instead. He followed me up the stairs, dripping water onto the steps. I didn't invite him inside. We stood in the hallway, the scent of wet pavement filling the air. He spoke first. I know I'm the last person you want to see, but I just needed to say I'm sorry. I crossed my arms. For what exactly, the broken engagement or the months of pretending I didn't exist? He winced. For all of it. I messed up, Ashley. I thought I wanted freedom, but I just wanted to feel something new. Lila, stop. My voice cut through his. Don't say her name. You lost that right. He nodded slowly. You're right. It's just she didn't care about me. Not really. I was convenient until she got bored. And when she left, I realized what I asked, though, part of me already knew. He swallowed hard. That I had everything I needed with you, and I threw it away. The words should have made me feel something. Sadness, anger, maybe even satisfaction. But I felt nothing. He took a shaky breath. I can't sleep. I can't eat. I keep thinking about you, about us. I stopped him again. Kyle, that's not love. That's regret. He looked up, rain dripping down his jaw. Maybe. But it's all I have left. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. The silence stretched until it hurt. When I finally found my voice, it came out calm. You didn't lose me because you chose her. You lost me because you chose yourself at my expense, and I won't be your recovery project. He blinked, his expression crumbling. I'm not asking you to take me back. I just don't know how to move on. That's not my problem anymore, I said quietly. His lips trembled like he wanted to argue, but no words came. Instead, he whispered, I thought you'd at least hate me. I shook my head. I don't. Hate means you still matter. He flinched at that, and in that moment, I realized how much power I'd taken back without even trying. Kyle stepped back defeated. You've changed, he murmured. No, I said. I just stopped bleeding for someone who never even noticed I was cut. He didn't follow me when I turned to unlock my door. When I glanced back one last time, he was still standing there, shoulders slumped, head bowed. A man watching the last light leave the only place he'd ever called home. Inside, I leaned against the door and exhaled. My hands were shaking, but not from pain, from release. He wanted forgiveness. I wanted distance. And for the first time, I got exactly what I wanted. A year passed. It's strange how pain fades without you realizing it. One morning you wake up, make your coffee, water your plants, and the silence that once felt suffocating now feels like peace. I had moved into a new apartment, changed jobs, and started dating again. His name was Ryan. He wasn't loud or charming like Kyle had been. He was steady, the kind of man who kept promises without making grand speeches. The kind of man who didn't need to be the center of every story. Sometimes I'd catch myself comparing, but not out of longing, out of clarity. Kyle had always wanted fireworks. Ryan was sunlight, constant, gentle, dependable. I thought the chapter was closed for good, until the universe decided to test my resolve. It happened on a Saturday evening at Nora's engagement party. Nora had been one of my bridesmaids almost. I almost didn't go, afraid of running into ghosts. But Ryan insisted. You can't keep avoiding the world, he said with a warm smile. Besides, it's time you celebrate someone's happy ending. He was right, so I went. The venue glowed with soft lights and laughter. Music, champagne, the kind of joy that used to make my chest ache. But not tonight. I was okay. Until I heard that voice. Ashley. I turned, and there he was. Kyle. He stood near the bar, holding a half-empty glass of white wine, his posture slightly slouched. For a second, everything around us blurred. He looked older, tired. The man who once left me for excitement now looked like someone running on the fumes of regret. He smiled weakly. Wow, you look good. Thanks, I said, my voice calm even. You too. A lie, but a harmless one. He took a sip of his drink, eyes darting around as if searching for courage. You probably hate me, he said finally. I don't. I met his gaze. You don't matter enough for that. He blinked, startled by my honesty. That's cold, he whispered. No, I said softly. It's just done. Silence stretched between us, heavy but clean, the kind that comes after a storm. Then right on cue, he said the words I knew were coming. I was stupid. I thought I was making the right choice. I thought I'd find something more exciting. But it was all fake. She just wanted attention. She didn't care. Nobody has since. He laughed bitterly, the sound hollow. I lost everything trying to find something that never existed. I nodded slowly, letting him talk, letting him bleed words into the air. He wanted me to patch his wounds to soften the truth. But I wasn't his healer anymore. He hesitated, then asked, Are you seeing someone? Yes, I said simply. He's amazing. For the first time, his composure broke. His jaw tightened, his eyes glassed over. I'm happy for you, he said, though the crack in his voice betrayed the lie. I believe you, I said quietly, setting my drink down. I started to walk away, but he called after me. Wait, do you ever think about us? I paused. For a moment, I remembered everything, the laughter, the plans, the heartbreak. But nostalgia isn't love. It's memory, pretending to be it. So I turned slightly, meeting his eyes one last time. No, I said softly, not anymore. Then I walked away. Ryan was across the room talking to one of our friends. When he saw me, he smiled, that easy, genuine smile that never made me second-guess my worth. He handed me a drink. You okay? Yeah, I said. Perfectly okay. He didn't ask who that man was. He didn't need to. The difference between them was written in the way I stood calm, grounded, free. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Kyle watching us, not angrily, not even sadly, just realizing that the woman he'd once left for something better had become someone he could never deserve again. And for once, I didn't need revenge or closure or apologies. His regret was enough. That night after the party, Ryan and I walked home hand in hand. The city was quiet, the kind of stillness that feels earned. Our footsteps echoed softly against the pavement, and for once, I wasn't thinking about what came next. Just the rhythm of now. Ryan squeezed my hand. You sure you're okay? He asked, glancing at me with that gentle concern I'd grown to love. I smiled. I'm not just okay, I'm free. He didn't press for details. He didn't need to. Some people don't heal you by fixing the past. They do it by giving you a safe present. As we crossed the street, a light drizzle began to fall. Ryan took off his jacket and placed it around my shoulders. A small instinctive gesture one Kyle had never done once in 8 years. It's strange how the smallest things can rewrite the story of love. That night, after Ryan fell asleep, I sat by the window and watched the rain blur the city lights. My reflection looked different, softer, stronger. The kind of woman who didn't wait to be chosen, she chose herself. I thought about how love had changed shape for me. Once it was desperation, begging to be understood. Now it was peace, knowing I didn't need permission to move on. I picked up my journal, the same one I'd brought to Thailand, and flipped to the first page. The ink from my earlier words had faded slightly. He said I'd never survive without him, but I'm breathing just fine. Underneath, I added one final line. And now I'm not just breathing, I'm living. Weeks passed after that night. Life slipped back into rhythm. Work, friends, Sunday mornings with coffee and quiet. Then one afternoon, I got a message request from an old mutual friend. It was a photo from the same engagement party. In the background, blurry but unmistakable, Kyle was watching me and Ryan from a distance. The caption read, "He looked lost." For a moment, I felt a twinge of something, not pity, not satisfaction, just closure. Because once upon a time, that was me, staring at a life that no longer belonged to me. And now he was the one left outside the glass watching me live, the peace he once broke. I closed my phone and went to the balcony. The air was cool, heavy with the scent of rain and jasmine. Below me, the world moved, on cars, laughter, music. And so had I. He'd broken the wedding, but I had built a life. And that's the real ending, not the heartbreak, not the regret, but the peace that follows when you finally stop rewriting a story that was never meant to last. Some people leave to find themselves, I whispered to the night. Others find themselves by finally letting go. I smiled, closed my eyes, and let the quiet wrap around me like an old friend. This time the silence wasn't empty, it was home.